can watch your reactions as you die.
I just got shot by somebody on my own team. That's weird. His name is something Sam's. I don't know. Oh, shoot. Yep, I score again. That's what I do.
Is it?
Yeah, usually. Not always.
Gingerly turn that around because I have about 0.5% of battery life, so I got to charge this thing. Let's see here. People in the outside world, is the audio coming through? Hopefully poorly. Why is this page not updated? Crap. Now I gotta go back over to that computer.
You know, I made fun of Teams on Twitter, and then I heard from the 2 people that actually like it. You know, screw those people. You know, they're probably people like being dumped on. I don't know.
I step away for 2 seconds and you take the show to a poor place.
Yeah.
Try to make sure that was page. There we go. Tyler Finch says the audio is great.
Excellent.
That's exactly what
And here comes my cat right on cue. Okay. Just settle down.
I was trying to turn off these lights, but because of the magic of IoT, my light bridge is updating because you can see this little dot right there is actually a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
And, ouch, the update failed to install. Please try again.
What's the update?
For my
like this week's
Philips
fetch, is it?
Hue Hub.
Oh,
You know, just the thing that all my stupid
everything
light bulbs
runs on in the house. Yeah.
Yeah. This is good. This is I don't know. This episode of First Ring Daily where Brad tries to turn off light bulbs because maybe they.
I spent about 20 minutes this morning writing short takes, and then I spent 2.5 hours making a graphic. And I don't feel like it was time well spent.
So now it's partially working. It's like updating in real time. Which one of these is the light bulb that I'm looking for? Nope, not that one. Oh, look at that. The spot is gone.
See? $10,000 worth of technology.
All right, you ready to start this Rochambeau?
Sure.
Actually, I'm not. That's a bold lie. Where's OneNote?
Interesting.
Welcome back to First Ring Daily, everybody, where we figure out how many Brads it takes to turn off a light bulb.
All of them.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for this Hue Hub to update. But at least I have partial control over my home again. Taking it back from the robots one step at a time.
Just dropping stuff. It's okay.
Yeah. Paul, I know it was Beach Week here on First Ring Daily, but I have a more important update because I'm going to educate the viewers on divots.
Oh, boy.
Divots. So last night I played in my neighbor's golf league. I putted for shit, but I was playing phenomenally every other part of the course, including my irons. And so, Paul, this is what you call a perfect divot, where you launch a 7-iron. I don't know, maybe 155, 160 yards. It hits and stops a foot away.
See, I thought that
perfect.
divot was the hole, and you had actually landed it that close to the hole. That would have been impressive. This is mildly amusing.
So this is a perfect divot. There's multiple types of divots, but as you can see, it's compressed straight down, which means your ball was dropping straight when it hit the green, which is what you want, as opposed to coming in like a dive bomber.
Oh, just like the meteorite that destroyed the dinosaurs.
And hopefully your house soon. Yep. And other meteorites that are now dropping actually are coming via Windows Update, Paul. There's a new build of Windows that actually has some good features, and there's really only one that I care about specifically. They're finally, after many years of begging, they're finally bringing SwiftKey. I thought it would be WordFlow initially, but SwiftKey keyboard to the desktop or the Windows 10. It only took.
See, I thought you were going to say that the one good feature was stopping autoplay videos in Edge.
No, because that didn't actually come.
That's not actually. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because surprise. Well, I mean, it's coming at least.
It is. For those who didn't get that joke, Microsoft said in the blog post, they announced and said, "Hey, in Edge, you can now turn off auto-playing videos." And then about 2 hours later, they said, "Actually, no, you can't. That's coming later." Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Oh well. Here's some wild speculation, Paul, because who doesn't love that on a Friday? So Microsoft's bringing SwiftKey, which is obviously good for a tablet. Microsoft has a new tablet coming out this year called Libra.
Yep.
I'm wondering if this was, they were like, hey, maybe we should finally do that. So when we launch this tablet.
It doesn't suck so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's kind of wondered why this hadn't happened already. So at least they're doing it, regardless of the reason. It's good that they're doing it.
It is. I fully agree. As my why did that browser just lock up? But that's neither here nor there, because just my life is a calamity.
Come on, cat. The cat's like under my feet now. Okay, sorry.
Maybe your
it's
cat's
kind
a
of an
fan of
infestation at this point.
Your cat might be a fan of Teams, Paul. That's why it's just nibbling on your toes.
If you want to kill me, do that to me on the stairs.
Don't give him ideas. That's dangerous. But Paul, mysteriously in the show notes I have a very unpopular opinion here, and I'm curious to see how you feel about this. So I think we can agree that the store is okay. I wouldn't call it an overnight success, massively successful, but I would say that
the store, like
the
Microsoft
Windows store or Microsoft Store, whatever the hell it's called, the place you go in Windows to download the apps, whatever they're calling it this week.
They would call it Chrome, but go on.
Wow.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so there's a lot of apps in there. It's doing all right. I am of the conviction that Windows Phone had to die for the store to be even modestly a success.
I will need you to explain that assertion.
Because when the store came out, the idea was you can put your app in there, you can run it on any platform, it'll be great. You can run on Xbox, HoloLens, Windows Phone, Windows 10. They don't really pitch it that way anymore. And they really have just kind of said, you know what, all those restrictions we had on getting things into the store, like it needs to run everywhere or should hopefully run everywhere, they don't really exist anymore. You've never heard Microsoft saying like, hey, put it in here so you can run it on all our platforms. They've really relaxed the restrictions to get things like iTunes into the store, to get things like Spotify into the store. And so because they don't have a mobile platform that they don't have to care about, they've relaxed restrictions, which is making the store more attractive to more people and thus making it actually a viable place to go to get apps besides Chrome, you jerk.
So two things come to mind. Apple made the Mac App Store whenever that was, eight years ago or something like that. And obviously they built it based on the model they had created for their iOS App Store. But what they didn't do was make it like a mobile app store. Like they said, look, we're going to do what I think Microsoft should have been doing all along, which was curate existing apps that already are out there for the Mac and provide them in a place. Look at my cat's face. Provide them, you little weirdo, in a place that will be known to be safe. Now, the Mac App Store is not taken off in any appreciable way either, and the way they're solving it is the exact opposite of what you're saying, which is kind of funny when you think about it. They're putting mobile apps in the store, right?
Yeah.
So the other half of that coin, though, is back in Windows 8 when Microsoft decided that they were going to bring a mobile app store and a mobile apps platform to Windows 8 at that time, and then later to Windows 10. The central mistake that they made, I think, is agreeing with you, by the way, is that they made it a mobile app store, right? The way the Windows 8 was so screwed up that those apps were in no way compatible with the Windows Phone apps. They should have been. That should have been that whole thing is just a story for history. But as Windows has evolved back to its kind of desktop PC centricity, mobile apps make less and less sense on this platform, especially when the mobile apps platform has not been successful. If we had something like Android to fall back on or something like iOS, this would be a completely different story, and that's why Apple's going in the opposite direction. So I guess what I'm saying is you're right. The thing that makes the Microsoft Store start to make sense is the appearance of high-quality apps, which are always desktop apps, almost always, right? There are a couple of exceptions. You and I have a personal grudge against Microsoft Teams, but technically it's a web app, but it's kind of a mobile. It wouldn't, it's mobile influence for sure. And obviously, literally, there are a couple of decent, true mobile apps in the store. But yeah, it's the, what are the big apps? It's those games that are AAA titles from Microsoft Studios or Photoshop Elements, iTunes, even though I hate iTunes. Those are the things that people actually care about. And it took them a real circuitous route to get to it. But yeah, it's starting to make sense for sure.
And the only cross-platform apps that to me make sense, and you were, I think, hitting on this as well, are games, which makes a lot of sense. If you can put a game into the store that's available on the Xbox and the PC, that is super attractive. And I think that's the appropriate way to do it.
Huge.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they'll never do this. Or if they do, it'll be quite some time because you need to have more of these apps available. But I would be very interested in a switch in the store that would just say, don't show me anything that runs on Windows 8. Don't show me anything that's UW, like pure WP. Like just show me the basically the good stuff. Because if you look at all the crap that's in the store, it's these myfirstapp.com kind of apps, that were written by kids in their garage, and they make farting sounds, or they do nothing, whatever. Like there's a bunch of that kind of stuff in the store.
Sure.
And even though there would only be maybe a couple hundred, if you got rid of all that stuff, that view of the store is going to be a lot more high quality than what we see overall, because you have to take in all that other stuff that's, kind of taking up space in there.
Yeah. So that is my unpopular opinion of the week. And so I say that today as I actually threw away some Windows phones. Please don't email me asking for me to send them to you, because I'm not, because they're trash and they're going away. I was like, you know what? If I wasn't chucking this in the trash can right now, would the store have iTunes in it? Would it have some of these apps?
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. Right. Yeah. That would the work have been done to think about a way to bring desktop apps to the store? Would that have ever happened had the mobile app store in any way taken off? I think the answer is very clearly no. Yeah, we would be dealing with these apps that, it's like you can build it for the phone. You can build the same app runs on the PC. It's the same app,
And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are, Paul. This one came out by Engadget today, and then they also very politely linked back to Brad Sims of Throughout.com. I had to correct that to Sims, but they spelled it S-I-M-S.
Oh, boy.
Anyways, they are citing their insider sources that says the HoloLens 2, which 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it, will use Qualcomm's new XR1 VR chip.
Yeah, 2 things to that. I saw that headline, and it wasn't quite what I thought. Is that chip, or at least maybe I'm wrong, is that chip that they're citing, is that a CPU, or is that a special chip?
I don't know. Because we already know that it has, Microsoft's already detailed the specs, at least of an earlier version of the chip, the HoloLens, or the holographic processing unit, which is their own custom chip. 2.0 has already been built. I would assume they're working on 3.0 for this thing. So I'm guessing that's more of the CPU, but it feels, I'll be interested to see how this works, because what was HoloLens 1 based off of?
It was an Intel chip. I think it was like a Celeron or something like that. It was something kind of low end. I think it's a 32-bit OS too, for whatever that's worth. But I'm just talking off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's roughly right. I have speculated. You have too. I'm not trying to take credit for this. I think a lot of people if you're familiar with what HoloLens is and the nature of it, how it's a standalone, alone, non-tethered device, and you look at Windows 10 on Qualcomm, a lot of people have been thinking, hey, maybe this device, it would make sense for whatever the next gen is when they put out for it to be based on Qualcomm. I don't know enough. I just saw the headline. I haven't looked into this yet. Like I said, I was busy all morning working on an orange graphic, but I do think going Qualcomm makes sense. It's possible that what this thing will be is some Qualcomm Snapdragon whatever processor, and this VR-oriented chip, and that's the approach they're going with going forward. This kind of it doesn't really answer the question too much, but the one thing that's always kind of bugged me about Qualcomm going getting into Windows 10 on ARM and being like super serious about it is, like, imagine they're so successful that this thing takes off gangbusters in ways that no one could ever have anticipated, and within a couple of years they actually get 50% of the PC market. Like, imagine that what I just said is impossible. It's impossible. Well, they're already selling 2 billion CPUs a year, probably across phones, tablets, whatever other devices. It's got to be 2 billion a year.
Yeah.
Over a billion, certainly. And then, so what's 50% of the PC market? Like 150 million, 120 million? Like, what, why? I mean, it's not, I'm not saying it's not nothing, but why all the effort, you know? And I think the reason is there's more to it than what we know about so far. That it's not just about Windows 10 on ARM on PCs, right? It's about a bigger partnership with Microsoft that might result in things like ARM-powered data centers that running on Qualcomm chips, running Microsoft software, and then these other things that are not PCs or data centers, like HoloLens. Like HoloLens is never going to be millions of units a year per se, but it could be part of a broader portfolio of devices. And we've talked before about this notion of Qualcomm making specialty chips for different platforms.
Yep.
And not just using the same thing everywhere. You know, this in many ways could be another version of that. So for V1, Microsoft did its own in-house thing. You know, I think we can agree HoloLens V1 was not a hobby, but it was sort of it's not a big commercial product. It's not something you go to Best Buy and see sitting in a store. Using Qualcomm parts suggests that they're serious about making it more mainstream now, right? It's not a research project anymore. It's becoming something that, again, maybe not something you'd see on the shelf at Best Buy exactly, but it's heading in that direction.
I'll throw something out there, and I can't verify if this is accurate or not. I talked to somebody who actually knows a lot in this space, and they told me that Microsoft spent $1 billion building HoloLens.
$1 billion. Yeah. So how do we put that number in perspective? We know they made a $5 billion investment in IoT recently, right? There's a number. We know how much they paid for various companies. They must have bigger plans for this than vertical business markets, with small unit counts, right? I mean, they have to see a bigger future for this, even if that future isn't exactly the HoloLens as we see it now. You keep developing this technology, the headset thing, that gets smaller and smaller until it looks like like those old lady sunglasses eventually, which are huge as sunglasses, but would be tiny compared to these VR, MR, whatever headsets. I don't know. I mean, so far it's been, it hasn't made much of a difference,
right?
I guess. But obviously they're still going with it, right? Because you were the one who reported on this first.
Yep.
That Microsoft canceled the V2 version. It was too incremental. And that sort of suggests that the version we're going to see now will be less incremental and will solve some of the challenges. Field of view, resolution, battery life, perhaps. And Qualcomm could help.
Yeah. Yep, it's going to be real interesting to see what they do. Most interesting, obviously, will be price point, because that is the make or break for all of this. The original HoloLens was $3,000, so sure. they got to drop that down. Like, I think 1,500 would have to be absolute max if they want consumers to even look at it.
Yeah, I think about this price point too with the Surface Hub, and as exciting as the second gen is, that thing has to come in seriously under the low end version is today. It can't be $5,000 per screen, right?
Mm.
It's probably going to be thousands. I mean, I'm sure, it's an expensive looking thing, but for that to kind of achieve, for the enterprise and for like meeting spaces, what would be considered, good sales or whatever, it can't cost $5,000 to $10,000. They do a demo. Was it 3 or 4 screens in a row sitting there? We're not spending $5,000 on each of those things. I don't care how beautiful it is. No one's doing that. That's just throwing money away. It has to be reasonable too. So I'm sure that's part of the effort. Making HoloLens in this case cost reduced while they make it better as well.
Yep, we shall see. Maybe if we're lucky later this year. If not, it should be about Q1 2019, which is when we're going to start getting a lot more info. So,
yeah,
that is going on. Paul, we had, I was digging through the comments to try to find some good stuff, but actually I came across a question and I didn't write down who wrote it. So whoever came up with this is a great question.
Okay.
But Paul, whatever had happened to Continuum?
Whatever happened to Continuum?
Yeah, it's just gone.
Well, that's not fair. You are using right now a Continuum device yourself. If you pop that screen off, that's Continuum. That's what that feature is called, right? The screen can, well, it is.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
It is. That's Continuum. So Continuum takes different forms based on the device. And, we were just talking about this notion of an Andromeda 2-screen device, whatever. It's possible that form factor will have its own form of Continuum or, or whatever. So I think what you're thinking of, and I guess maybe what the question was Continuum debuted with Windows Phone.
Right.
And Continuum allowed you to dock your phone and then have attached to that dock a keyboard and a mouse and a big display. Mm-hmm. And you could sort of use it like a computer. Like a desktop would come up with a start menu. The start menu would look like your start screen on the phone. If the apps were that kind of store app we were just talking about, that you're kind of starting to go away a little bit, where they could look right on the phone but also look right on a big screen, like Word and Excel and PowerPoint Mobile, you could have that experience. Obviously, with Windows Phone failing, I don't know if you caught this a little bit. I've been waiting for the IDC data, but according to Gartner, Android and iOS together collectively account for 100.0% of the market share in the mobile market, meaning that everything else, which is Windows Phone, BlackBerry, and pretty much that's it, accounts for 0.0%. Now, literally speaking, using their numbers, there were, I think, 130,000 devices sold that were not Android or iOS in the most recent quarter, but that rounds down to 0.0%. That system, the technology is there. It's just that no one is buying those phones anymore, right? So do we expect to see something like that again? I mean, Andromeda brings the hope of that kind of thing. I mean, honestly, we're just giving names to things now, but anytime you dock a computer of any kind, and a computer could be like tablet, whatever, your Surface Book there, if you think about it, is docked when you plug the screen into it, because you're providing it then with a GPU, keyboard, pointing device, and USB expansion, right? So it's basically, that's a dock, really. That's a docking connector. You're making that connection. You can configure Windows 10 today to automatically go into tablet mode when it's not docked, or ask you every time. There's all these options for that. That's Continuum in the PC space. I feel like Continuum has been, I don't know, taken a little bit. Samsung does their own version of Continuum with the DeX thing for the Galaxy phones. I can't really say that Chromebook has a Continuum type feature exactly, but it does do docking and second screen support, high DPI, et cetera, et cetera. So Apple has their own, sort of. They don't have a desktop OS, obviously, but apps scale according to devices and everything. I don't know. I mean, what do you think it just dies with Windows Phone, or do you think?
I don't know. It really was just kind of an open-ended question. I don't know. I don't know if it. I can't imagine them just abandoning it. I think if it's going to live, it's going to be with Andromeda. I think it's the only way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tied to the whole universal app platform thing, I used to think they call this thing universal. It's not really universal, right? It was universal across Microsoft's platforms, which is not universal, right? That one of the things they could do to make it truly universal would be to put Android into that mix. That a Microsoft phone could be an Android phone, and an Android phone docked could run, full size apps and so forth. I don't know. I don't know. The problem with Continuum at the end of the Windows Phone cycle was that the capability was there, and we'll always be able to find a handful of people who loved it. I mean, to this day, there are probably people using it. But as the app support kind of dies there, as there's no reason for any app maker to bother with their existing app to make it compatible, right? Hey, I just enabled the full screen mode. You can use my app in Continuum now. You 6 guys that are out there using this thing. It kind of dies a natural death, unfortunately, even though the capability still exists. What about the notion of Continuum to Surface Hubs, right? They don't really call it this, but one of the cool things about Surface Hub, even the first version, was that you can always do like Windows key plus P brings up that present or project menu rather. It's kind of a presentation mode thing, and it lets you switch between different screens. You can connect to wireless displays and so forth. So you can do this from any Windows computer, depending on what displays are available. You can project your display to a different display. The thing that Surface Hub added back, and I don't know if this is kind of like it's almost like reverse engineered Miracast. I'm not sure what you call this, but you could project your Surface or any PC screen up to the Surface Hub, right? So it could be full screen. It could be in a picture type thing, but it was two-way, right? Is two-way. I guess it works this. I don't have a Surface Hub, but the way it works, I believe, is that you could walk up to the screen, and even though the thing you're interacting with on the screen is actually physically over on the other side of the conference room on someone's computer, you're interacting with their computer, right? So you not only do you have this huge computing device, but you have this screen, which again could be full screen, but could be picture-in-picture, which is someone else's computer, and you could be interacting with that. So if you were giving a slide presentation, for example, you could interact on the Surface Hub screen, even though it's projecting from the Surface Pro or whatever. Is that a form of Continuum?
Yeah, good question.
It's in that wheelhouse or barnyard or whatever. It's in the area, I guess. I don't know.
I just keep looking at this perfect divot. So it was so good, Paul. What do you got anything going on this weekend?
We have people visiting. I still hope to get up. Yeah, I know. So I have a lot of little like smart house stuff I want to write about. I've got all these little devices, like little smart switches and like stuff. I'm going to get to that eventually. I still have those devices to review that I don't know. Lenovo got in touch with me and they're like, give me this list of computers I could review. And I was like, guys, like I have so many things I have not even done with. So I am going to be getting an X1 Yoga. I had to say yes to that one. I just, because it's so awesome. It's like, don't even send it to me. I'll just give you an A+. No, I mean, I know it's going to be great, but it's just too good. That one's too good to pass up. But there's like a list of like 7 or 8 of these things, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to live long enough. I got to move on.
That's reassuring, actually. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff in the works, I guess. But what about you?
So, this is a Father's Day gift, but whatever. My wife just give it to me. That's what we're gonna say. So speaking of IoT crap that was breaking in my house, including the light bulbs that now appear to be working, I ordered a kit that is going to allow me to retrofit my garage door to then be able to be opened with my phone.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how this is going to go poorly, but
yeah.
It'll be neat. The reason why this came up is like last week I accidentally left the garage door open all night, and I was like, man, why can't I just set it like a timer and every night it shuts at 10:30 p.m.
Closed, yeah.
And so then I found a device that will let me do this, and we will see if it actually works. It's a little hodgepodge together. What it does is, I believe, and I'll know more once I get it, so you attach something to your ceiling in your garage and you put a sensor on the door, and the door knows if it's up or down, like you just calibrate it. And then when you hit the button, what I think it's doing is actually just firing off the IR beam at the repeater or the sensor in the garage. So it's not actually connected to it. It just uses the code. And then there you go.
Okay. Yeah, it's like IR blasting, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can see how this can go poorly, but the reviews are okay. People say it either works really well or just not at all. So there's no real middle ground on
It's
this
probably
thing.
like a line of sight slash conditions in your garage thing. Because we used to have a problem in our old garage where the sensor, they kind of look at each other, I
Yep.
guess, across the thing, and one would get skewed, or so you'd bump into it with a mower or whatever, and it stopped working, and it was always a huge problem. So the one we have now, I don't know how it works actually. It's just your basic. It's probably like a Craftsman something.
Yeah.
It works fine. It has a code on the door you can type in and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I think the biggest weakness on this, from what I was trying to read about it, is the Wi-Fi signal in people's garages.
Yeah.
That's a big issue, because if you have a weak signal in there, then you go to use your phone, it can't connect to the thing, and there you go.
Yep. Well, if you want to add like $129 to the cost of what you're doing, you probably have some kind of a mesh network. I can't remember which one it is,
the
but
Amplify.
yeah, you could buy another node, stick that in the garage.
Yep.
You can just do it that way, I guess.
And then at that point, I'm already up to, that would be like $250 all in or whatever. And
Yeah.
then at that point, you could just buy a new lift opener with it built in.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. That's the problem. So it's funny. It's funny you just said that. Part of the problem I have with writing about the smart home stuff is you have to kind of, it's hard to understand the expense and the effort and whatever. Like if you just break it down, like what are you trying to achieve? Like what's the point of what you're doing? And I'm just looking at my room in here. Like I have lights in here. There's a temperature control for some kind of it's for a heater in this case. There are switches on the wall that control things. In some cases, they control lights, or whatever.
Yeah.
There are, in some cases, the one over there is attached to some kind of a power port. The idea is you have a lamp and you do the switch and it will turn the lamp on and off. You understand all that, whatever. There's 100 different ways to kind of smartify what I just described. And this is not a complicated room by any imagination from that perspective. But some of those things aren't particularly smart. And they short circuit the normal way that we were used to doing. Like if somebody just walks in and flips a switch, they could screw something up. Do I need you can add stuff on, like this is a simple thing you can kind of plug into a wall, right? So the plug goes between this and the wall, and this does Wi-Fi and whatever. And that's, it's simple enough, but it's bulky and they can be kind of expensive. They're external. You can replace the thing in the wall with like an internal unit that will require an electrician, or you to electrocute yourself if you don't know what you're doing. And those things are complicated, And now I've just described one room in this whole house. So multiply this by 10 or whatever. And you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. Like what did I just do? Now I have like 13 different apps on my phone because all these things are made by different companies, and if I walk around the house saying, hey, Google, whatever, and it doesn't work, everyone has forgotten how to do anything in the whole house. Like, we're like, how did we turn on the light?
Yep.
I told you this. We have a smart light in my den. My wife has not touched it since we moved in, and I asked her why. No, she goes to bed every night and she turns off all the lights, which I don't understand because I go to bed after her and I turn off all the lights. And then I finally said, I noticed you turn off all of the lights except for the one in the living room. How come you never turn that one off? And she goes, I don't have the app on my phone. I don't want to screw with it. I said, honey, it's got a light switch. you just turn it off. And she's like, I was afraid of touching it. Like, okay. Like smart home. It's goofy. I mean,
all I could think about as you were talking about that is those old commercials for the clapper. Clap on.
Yes.
That's all I could think about. That was the original IoT.
Yeah, you sit there and you're like, how come it's not coming on? Come on. And you clap harder. You go up to it and you clap.
Yep.
And at that point, like the kid just walks in and goes, click. You just flipped the switch, idiot. It works.
But see,
sometimes the easiest thing to do is leave it alone.
When we had a dog, and you probably experienced this, although I suspect we're going to end up a dog here soon, like the dog would come up to me and just start crying when it was hungry. Like there was no way that was ever going to get food, but in reality it does, because then I would get up and then go get the food.
Sure.
Like it's the same thing. If you just kept clapping, somebody will eventually come turn it off because they're like, why the hell is Paul clapping in the house?
Please stop clapping. Yeah, it's like the Stephen Wright joke where he flips, there's a light switch in his house. He doesn't know what he does, so every day he like walks up and he clicks it and he clicks it down again. Clicks it up, clicks it down. Never does anything. Every day he does this. A couple of years go by. Finally, his phone rings. It's a woman from Germany, and she says, "Please stop doing that."
Oh man! All right, you got anything else for today before we wrap it up, Paul?
No, I do not.
Nor do I. All right, everybody. Well, have yourselves a wonderful weekend of Father's Day. If that's your thing, go enjoy yourself, and we'll catch you right back here Monday for First Ring Daily. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
I got nothing.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'll be here for probably most of the day, sadly.
That's unfortunate.
Sorry.
See ya.